welcome everybody to the 16th week of the war. This is the Monday Night Wars. This is the WWF Raw side. January the 2nd, 1996, the first Raw of 96. Welcome to the new year. This was the 141st episode of Raw in its history. Raw was taped from Newark, Delaware, but the show before this wasn't aired. They didn't have a Christmas special. They just were off the air while Nitro went on the air, and Nitro got a 2.5 rating without Raw on. So similar rating that Nitro was always getting around the time, even though Raw was off the air. So that's interesting. Ratings were 2.7 and to 2.3 in favor of Nitro the last time they went head-to-head, which was a week before Christmas. So I skipped that week. I don't count that was week 16 because just Nitro was on. I only count weeks when Raw and Nitro go head to head. So week 16 is this week. The first week of 1996 is week 16. I don't count last week as week 16 because Raw and Nitro didn't go head to head. So instead we skipped that Nitro, but on the Nitro review I still tell you what happened on that Nitro that we missed. But I skipped that week as far as the wars are concerned and consider week 16 the first week of 1996. So the ratings were 2.7 to 2.3 in favor of Nitro last week, the week before Christmas. And now the week at Christmas, Nitro did a 2.5 to Raw's nothing because Raw wasn't on. Now week 16, the first week of 1996, Raw wins with a 2.6 to 2.5. So a 0.1 victory for the WWF for Raw. So the scoreboard now is 7 wins for Raw, 7 losses for Nitro, and 2 draws. So 7 wins for Raw, 7 wins for Nitro, and 2 losses. So that it's a 7-7-2 record for both Nitro and Raw when you want to look by wins, losses, and draws. This Raw won the ratings week with a 2.6, as I mentioned, and let's get to it. McMahon and the King are on commentary, and they treat this as though it's the Super Bowl of the WWF. McMahon tried this once and only one time because I don't think it was received very fondly. It was called the Raw Bowl. McMahon introduces the Raw Bowl. They have cheerleaders. They have a big Monday Night Raw sign that people run through, just like a football would run through a sign, like a paper sign. They run through it. The wrestlers are dressed as football players. They got helmets and jerseys. The Earl Hebner has got a white hat on with a whistle. They redressed the canvas to have green grass on the canvas with a WWF logo in the middle, and it's called the red zone and the green zone. There's a yellow flag in the referee Earl Hebner's pants. McMahon and King is dressed in his Cleveland Browns jersey. I don't think McMahon's dressed up in anything. I can't remember, but around ringside they had other officials that looked like football officials. They did about 100 football analogies and puns, and they kept saying it was interference. They said that during the match, during the Raw Bowl, each team has a timeout. And yeah, they really tried to turn it. You can see that this is the same person that tried to do a football league, XFL. You can see right away. Anyway, the Raw Razor Ramon makes his way to the ring after the Smoking Guns, and Ramon is given a gift by Goldust's usher, because you see Goldust by the entrance stage, like doing his, thing. And Razor looks disgusted, but the usher gives him a gift, so Razor punches the usher, and the usher runs back because it's a gift of flowers. Razor Ramon already said, "Hey, man, I don't play that way." He says, "I don't care. You do you, but don't get me involved." But Goldust keeps sending flowers to Razor Ramon. He's infatuated by him. Opening Raw, this is the Raw Bowl. This is one of 2 matches on the night. The 8-man tag team battle royal. World tag team champions, the Smoking Guns, take on Razor Ramon and Savio Vega versus Owen Hart and Yokozuna versus Psycho Sid and the 1-2-3 Kid. Jim Cornette and Mr. Fuji are out with Owen and Yoko, and Ted DiBiase's out with 1-2-3 Kid and Psycho Sid because they're in the $1 Million Corporation at the time. So this Raw Bowl is a tag battle royal. You can take anybody in the ring. So it's so stupid because if you not only because of what it is, but you could tag in somebody else, and it can be partner versus partner. And if it is partner versus partner, you have to have one offensive move against each other, or else it's a penalty. I know you can't mix football and wrestling. You just can't. But Vince McMahon just is obsessed with it. So, anyways, Owen Hart got tagged in at the same time as his partner Yokozuna, so they had to have one offensive move against each other, or else it's a penalty. And they're talking like, "Oh, it's his defensive tackle. Oh, look, he's just not on the. He's a wide receiver. He's a like they wouldn't stop with the football puns, analogies. They acted like it was a football match. They had to go in their starting position before they started. Yeah, it was just ridiculous. The Raw Bowl, it was just ridiculous. You can see why, because McMahon calls it at the time. He calls it's the first ever Raw Bowl. Well, there's a reason it's the first ever and last ever. Yeah, it needs to be seen to be believed. I'm not doing it justice. There's way more football analogies and way more football parts of this match than I'm even saying. So Owen Hart tags in Savio Vega, and he has to face Yokozuna, and they went at it for a while. Yoko using his agility, and he did well in this kind of match because, again, it was tackles and all sorts of football moves. Razor hit the Razor's Edge to the Kid, but he was eliminated. Razor and Savio are out of this because of the Razor's Edge to Savio Vega. So they're eliminated. The Raw Bowl continues, and Billy Gunn gets a hot tag. He hits Cornette off the apron, but Owen Hart catches Gunn with a neck breaker. Yoko is going to drop a bonsai drop, and he did on Owen, and Bart got pulled off, so Yoko bonsai dropped Owen Hart, and they're out. Now it's Guns versus Sid and the 1-2-3 Kid in the final of the Raw Bowl. Who's going to win the first ever Raw Bowl? The Smoking Guns win the first ever Raw Bowl, and it was ridiculous. They win around the 15-minute mark against Sid and the 1-2-3 Kid. It was ridiculous. I'm rating it a dud just because I could say that there's some action in this, but I don't want to lie. I mean, there's action, but not the good kind. Not the kind you want. Next up, Diesel took on King Mabel. Diesel makes short work of Mabel with a boot to the face and then a slam. He wins at 8 seconds. So I rate that a dud as well. So this episode of Raw, what am I going to rate it? I rate it a 1 out of 10. I rated a 1 out of 10. They tried with the Raw Bowl, and I'm going to give them points for trying something different. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm even conflicted giving it a 1 out of 10. The show had 2 matches, and they were both duds. What am I supposed to say? I mean, I could give it a 0, but I'll give him a 1 because Owen Hart tried. They tried the wrestlers in the ring, Razor Ramon, Owen Hart. They tried to make the best of a bad situation, so I'll give it a 1 out of 10. That's the lowest rating by far of any Raw I've rated in the 16 weeks of the war. So yeah, there's 7, 7, and 2 after this week in the ratings, and it's a 1 out of 10 quality wise. At least next week, Raw gets more serious. I think it's the debut of Steve Austin, I believe, is the ringmaster next week. Either the next week or the week after, I think. So that'll be good. So we'll tune into that. And I think Mankind vignettes start soon, too. This is a turning point for the WWF when they brought in Foley, Austin, Vader. Around this time, they brought in a few people. Goldust, they had brought in. So there's a lot of cool characters that the Wild Man Mark Merrow, even though he's not really a cool character, but he's still a good wrestler. So they brought in a bunch of people around this time. So the Raw should get more interesting as we go. This was just sadly not an episode that was interesting. I mean, it was certainly interesting, but it wasn't very good. They also if you're wondering, that's 2 short matches. How did the hell they fill out the hour? They showed Hunter Hearst Helmsley versus Henry O. Godwin, the slot match from In Your House Season's Beatings. They also showed that match pretty much in its entirety, with Hunter Hearst Helmsley getting slopped and going in the pig pen. McMahon loved his wild matches, and he thought this is something that the cable audience needs to see. I wonder what Helmsley thinks of that now, looking back. You know, he wasn't even being punished yet because the curtain call incident hadn't happened yet. Either way, this Raw gets a 1 out of 10. We'll see you next week for Raw week 17. The Raws are going to get better from here on out, so that's good news to you and me. All right, I'm Brett Mix. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Brett Mix, and I'm out.